So, winding down here, we're on the home stretch with Rene Guenon's Reign of Quantity and Signs of the Times. And what I want to do is zip through 5 chapters in this video, and then our next video will be the last one. So we'll wrap it up there. So we got to go through a lot of chapters, although most of them are kind of cursory. Chapter 26 on shamanism and sorcery was a bit of a disappointment. I don't think that he understood shamanism. He's got a footnote that refers to most of this I got from a book by this fellow who was referred to me by Ananda K. Kumaraswamy. So apparently the chapter was based just on reading one book about shamanism, and it wasn't even Mircea Eliade's, which was the best one ever done. So he doesn't know much about shamanism, so it's not a very good chapter. Then chapter 27, Psychic Residues. 28, the successive stages in anti-traditional action. 29, deviation and subversion, and 30, the inversion of symbols. So we'll stop there at that point for this discussion, because most of these chapters are interrelated and all have to do with the process of stages of what he calls anti-traditional attacks on the traditional esoteric worldview. So the first stage, of course, as we've already seen, is solidification, the creation of the materialist cube that solidifies modernity. And then now we have the dissolution process. He sort of portrays it a little differently in these chapters, where he sees the creation of the materialist cube as what he calls a process of deviation. Although if it's a fulfillment of the natural eschaton of the Kali Yuga to go down toward materialism, I wouldn't think it would be a deviation, but a fulfillment of the whole telos of the process. But nonetheless, as a deviation, and then the second phase, the dissolution process that he sees us moving into now, as a subversion. And then he characterizes, I suppose, these individuals who get in through the fissures as what he calls anti-traditionalists, or he also calls them the adversary. And it looks like he lumps in a lot of contemporary cultural phenomena here, because I think he's talking about the theosophists, people who conduct seances. These all represent a kind of degeneration and vulgarization of all the old great initiatory cults, which he sees as something very negative and is coming in as a negative force. But we get to this chapter where he talks about the inversion of symbols, which is a more concrete chapter. I think Guenon takes a while to get to the point, and he's not very concrete. He should give more concrete examples than he does. But here in this chapter, he gives an example of, for instance, the pentagram. The way the pentagram has been understood, we commonly think of it with the 5 stars and the 2 points, the 1 point downward, actually, with the 1 triangle and its 2 legs going upward, as associated with black magic. So, but he says that's an inversion of what the symbol originally meant. It did not mean that. It actually meant health. It was connected to the Pythagorean conception of health, in which the triangle was actually up the other way, with the head of a man in a kind of Vitruvian fashion, with legs and arms spread apart to represent the star as a macrocosmic correspondence symbol, spelling out the word salus, S-A-L-U-S, for health, as in salutary. Something that is salutary is very good, but it meant health. And so it was a very positive thing, and so I think he has a point here about that. Also, there's a footnote where he mentions the swastika. He doesn't mention the Nazis, but he just says the swastika is also another one of these symbols that goes way, way back, that has been inverted and degraded by the vulgarized mentality of modernity. And indeed, the swastika was very anciently associated with shamanism and yoga, as I think Joseph Campbell demonstrated much better than the esoterists. The esoterists have a tendency to see it as just a sun symbol, or at best as a symbol of the pole star with constellations going around it, as Jocelyn Godwin talks about in his book on Arctos, where he talks about the polar myth in connection with Nazi mythology and so forth. But Joseph Campbell did a wonderful job on sort of archaeologizing the swastika, going all the way back to Native American depictions on pottery bowls of 4 birds whirling cosmically. Very often they would be counterclockwise, symbolizing the inversion in shamanism of consciousness away from the macrocosmic world of waking daylight consciousness down into the abyss of dreaming consciousness, and thereby connecting with the astral plane that is divided into the 3 worlds. So the swastika, and then of course it was appropriated by Buddhism as precisely a symbol of the inversion of consciousness, going down, turning the other way, going out, not out, but withdrawing back, going down inward into the depths as a symbol of the yogic process. So there's been an inversion there. But he also mentions how, for instance, snakes and dragons have the symbolism associated with them has been inverted, because snakes used to have a positive association, as they do in medicine. For an example, the staff of Asclepius, the healer, has one snake twining around it, whereas the god of the dead, and also of communication, and the protector of merchants and thieves, is of course Hermes, who has the caduceus with a single staff and two serpents twining up it, representing apparently a knowledge that has been initiated beyond the pairs of opposites, as in the myth of Tiresias, where Tiresias is the oracle seer in Oedipus Rex, who can see beyond pairs of opposites because he's been initiated into it. He saw a pair of serpents copulating, and that transformed him into a woman for 7 years. Then he saw the same pair of serpents copulating again, and that transformed him back into a man. So he was able to have knowledge of both sides, the light and the dark, the male, the female, both sides of the world. And so he's been initiated. So he's blind, but he can see beyond that symbol that goes up through the middle, past the pairs of opposites, into the metaphysical ideas that transcend pairs of opposites. And so he's the seer in Oedipus Rex. And so there again, the serpent has an initiatory positive connotation, as I suppose it does in Gilgamesh, although in Gilgamesh it's a little ambivalent, because Gilgamesh has, at the end of the epic, when he's gone down to retrieve the plant that will reverse his aging process, he dives down, goes back, pulls the plant up, and while he's sunbathing out on the boat, a serpent comes up and eats the plant. So it cheats him of any access whatsoever to reversing his aging process. So in a sense, the serpent is wily there. It does cheat him, but on the other hand, it does so because it's sort of mini narrative about how the leopard got its spots. The serpent sheds its skin, and because it sheds its skin, it's a symbol of constant renewal. Just like the moon sheds its skin on a monthly basis, it's a symbol of renewal, like the serpent. And so the serpent has anciently been positively regarded, mainly in connection with the cult of the goddess. We think of the Minoan snake priestesses dancing with the snakes in either hand, or the Hopi snake dancers also. There's another variation. The serpent has indeed been positive, precisely because it's associated with, it's a terrestrial symbol, but it's associated with shedding consciousness, with death, birth, rebirth, death, birth, rebirth, that whole process. That's why it became associated with medicine. And so, but it was the biblical Hebrews who inverted the symbolism in the book of Genesis by associating the snake with the forbidden fruit and tempting Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They eat from that tree, and they're not allowed to eat from the other tree, the tree of the knowledge of immortal life, which is also an inversion of symbols. The Hebrews were fond of taking symbols that in other traditions had meant one thing and turning them upside down so they mean something exactly the opposite, because it's a set of ethnic markers. It's a way of using myth to create ethnic markers that demarcate a tribe or a new people as different in signification from the other tribes. And so we have a man giving birth to a woman, with Adam in the rib being taken out, whereas we all know that women give birth to men, not the other way around. But the whole point is the appropriation there of the metaphysical vulva, just as Zeus appropriates it when he gives birth to Athena from his head. That's part of the mental consciousness structure, what Gebser called the mental consciousness structure, and what Heidegger saw as equivalent to the beginnings of the metaphysical age, which Heidegger demarcated from Plato to Husserl. The metaphysical vulva is appropriated in that age, and it eventually becomes associated with Father Science, who is the figure in a lot of our myths now, like in the recent Blade Runner 2049 film, who is the father figure, who is the creator, using rationalism and science to create life and thereby appropriate the powers of the Great Mother. A dragon-slaying myth by other means. Now this is interesting because Dragonslayer myths generally are themselves inversions. It's not the case that the inversion of symbols is simply a modern characteristic. Maybe they're vulgarization and degradation perhaps, but the inversion of symbols is very ancient. It's a practice that goes way, way back. Every time a new people comes in somewhere, they want to overtake the cults and delegitimize the previous cults that were there before, So they invent some type of myth that de-authenticates or delegitimizes the previous cults by turning their symbols upside down. The Hebrews weren't the only ones to do this with the serpent and with the two trees, which are normally represented as one tree. The tree of knowledge of good and evil is usually identical with the tree of immortality. They separate them, thereby turning that upside down. The Babylonians, the oldest Dragonslayer myths we know. And he also says that the dragon has become, the symbolism has been turned upside down. The dragon used to be, I presume he means that it used to be a positive symbol. But in the West, it rarely has been a positive symbol, especially during the second millennium BC, when we got waves of Indo-Aryans coming down from the north, all across the north, from Europe going all the way across through to Russia and China. We've got Indo-Aryans coming down. And from below, we've got Semites coming up at the same exact time from the Syro-Arabian deserts into the Middle East. And they are both bringing with them traditions that aren't too hot about goddesses, to be honest. These are tough nomads riding on camels in the south, riding on horses in the north. They're tough men. They don't give much credence to the female way of doing things. And so consequently, in the Rig Veda, there are very few goddesses mentioned in the Rig Veda. This is a very different world from what eventually happens in India when the goddess becomes their primary figure. To this day, the goddess is the great figure of India. It was not the case with the Vedic Aryans, who come down with one of the oldest Dragonslayer myths, Indra, the storm god, who is morphologically equivalent to Zeus or to Thor. The storm god, with his thunderbolt, slays the dragon Vritra, and Vritra has sucked up all the waters, so it's a symbol of drought. And in slaying the dragon's belly pops open, and out come all the floods. The Sarasvati River comes forth, and so forth, and you get fructification and fertilization and a greening of the wasteland. There, the dragon may have been associated with the goddess. It's possible. It's more likely and more evident in the Semitic Babylonian myth of the Enuma Elish, which dates most likely, I think, from the time of Hammurabi, who was the first to bring in this wave of Babylonians and set up the old Babylonian Empire circa 1790 BC, right in there. The Enuma Elish feels like it fits in there, in which we have Marduk now, who actually turns out to be a symbol for the planet Jupiter. But nonetheless, Marduk comes in as a dragon-slaying solar hero who slays the dragon, represented in this case by a creature known as Tiamat, who is this dragon monster who is associated with 11 other monsters plus Kingu, their priest, as a 12th, which makes me suspect very strongly that they represent the 12 signs of the zodiac in connection with the Great Mother, who is here vilified as a dragon, and that the Babylonians are overturning, at least early on here. Later, it's with the Neo-Babylonians is a different matter. But I think initially these guys were kind of hostile to astrology. The whole astrological worldview, which was associated with the goddess and her cosmos and the fate of the planets, which cannot be contested with, and tends to undermine the heroic deeds of either Semitic warriors or Indo-Aryan dragon slayers who see themselves as great warrior heroes, not bound to any cosmic cycles. And so I think there's some of that going on here with Marduk slaying Tiamat, tearing her apart, and then forming the cosmos out of her body. I think there is an inversion here, a very old inversion of symbols where the goddess was originally associated with the serpent, as the Minoan snake priestesses were, as the guardians of the Hesperides are in Greek myth. The goddess was very happily connected with the dragon. In Asia, it's a different matter. The dragon is generally has a positive valency there. But I think Guenon, I don't know, I get the sense that he thinks there's only one true way to understand these symbols, and the modern world has degraded them through turning them upside down. But I don't think so. As we look through history, it just depends on the context. New peoples are always coming in inverting symbols, and I don't think it was the case that the dragon was necessarily in origin a positive thing, simply because it is in Asia, where we find dragons associated with the ocean. Dragons are associated with rain and the ocean and rivers in China, and they're these great, happy, beneficent figures that bring you good luck. And hence in the great Chinese epic, The Journey to the West, we have Monkey there, who is going around traveling down below the underworlds in the sea, to visit the dragon kings of the four quarters. There's a dragon king assigned to each of the four quarters, and he upsets them all. He's very irreverent and disrespectful to them, and they don't like him. And eventually they play a huge role in bringing the Buddha along to imprison and capture a monkey in the palm of his hand as a prison. He represents a symbol that would be in the West actually kind of what we like. We like irreverence. We like the Promethean defiance of the gods. But in China, precisely that behavior is condemned in that book. There's a lot of dragon slaying and monster slaying that goes on in that epic. At one point, the Bodhisattva Kuan Yin, her Vahana, which is the serpent, she sits on the coiled serpent with 7 dragon heads above her forming a hood. And she's a very positive. Kuan Yin is the great savior, Virgin Mary type cult benefactress figure in Chinese mythology. She loses her Vahana, the dragon, and they have to go, the 4 heroes, they have to go find it, capture it, and bring it back for her. And it's all done in a very kind of playful, fun, jovial manner as the whole epic Journey to the West. I highly recommend that, by the way. It's 4 volumes long. It takes forever to get through, but it's wonderful. It's very, very funny. In Mesoamerica now, and I just want to finish with this because I think this is interesting. I regard Mesoamerican civilization, and by Mesoamerican I mean Olmecs, Maya and Aztecs, maybe also the Toltecs, but all of them constituting Mesoamerican civilization as the furthest extension of Asian culture eastward into the Americas, because there are a lot of continuities of symbolism between the Chinese tradition and the Asian tradition, and one of them is indeed this positive attitude regarding dragons. Now, I know we've lost all the Mayan literature except for the Popol Vuh. That's just about the only thing we have. The conquistadors practiced book burnings of all their manuscripts, so we don't have much to go on. But looking at the symbols in the art, the dragon, there just isn't any evidence of any dragon-slaying myths in Mesoamerica. In the Popol Vuh, there are no dragon-slaying deeds going on there at all, because the dragon is what's known as the vision serpent. And the vision serpent, which you see in the best artwork done by the Maya at the height when they were at their flowering apogee, the dragon serpent is something that comes up when you cut yourself, perforate your tongue or your testicles, and draw blood. You draw the blood, and the vision serpent pour it into the fire, and the vision serpent responds by coming up out of the fire with a dragon's head. It opens its mouth, and there inside of its jaws is the dead ancestor that you want to talk to. That's how you talk to the dead. You have to bring the serpent up from below with blood sacrifice to talk to the ancestral dead, to get them to do your bidding, give you good luck, whatever. There it's a very positive thing. The vision serpent isn't something to be slain or overcome, as with Asian symbolism, in which, in Chinese symbolism in particular here, I'm talking about not Hindu, Chinese symbolism in which the dead, very often, the dead emperors would ride on the backs of dragons to the other side, to the underworld, where the Yellow Springs were, or even to the upper world, Tian, heaven. So the dragon is very positive in Mesoamerica and in Asia. The Western tradition, though, with all of its aggressive nomads coming in the second millennium from the north and the south, overturning all the goddess cults and bringing in masculine barbarian warrior type ethos mentalities into play, is a different matter. The West, so the dragon has become a negative symbol. But this inversion has been, that Guenon says is typical of the end of the Kali Yuga, has actually been going on forever here. It's not something that's new to the Kali Yuga or to modernity. It's a process that's been going on forever. And besides, I reject the attitude of these satirists, the arrogance that they have here. And it's clear, it comes through in Guenon's attitude, that there's only one real, right, traditional way to interpret the symbols. And they're sort of guardians of that tradition. And you kind of get the sense that Guenon, when he speaks, doesn't want to tell you all of what he knows, because it's important to the esoterists to make you feel excluded from them unless you're initiated into their knowledge cults, because knowledge for them is power. So they don't want to give it away. So this is one of the reasons why Guenon has been so vague all along. He's guarding and protecting knowledge. The way I noticed that the Heidegger scholars did. Way back when I started the YouTube videos on Heidegger, I noticed that Heidegger is so goddamn difficult to get into, so difficult, and is so hard to do, that they become these kind of guardians priesthood of Heideggerian knowledge, and they don't like popularizing it because it was so hard for them to get in on the inside of Heideggerian knowledge. And so they have this esoteric kind of attitude of exclusion. And so there weren't many videos in which people were talking about the essence of what Heidegger was saying, which is one of the reasons why I said no, everyone should know. Heideggerian vocabulary should be a part of modernity. Let's go in, break it from the esoteric guardians, the priests who are guarding that knowledge, and disseminate it through the democratization process, electronified for us by YouTube.